Hello, Buckeye Nation. I have 3 words for you this week. Undefeated Penn State. Look, that Nebraska game was not what we wanted to see last Saturday, and I will talk about that. However, we cannot get stuck in that. The focus this week and the next tough game on our schedule is Penn State. Let's dig into it all after the intro. Welcome to Buckeye Football Fangirl. If this is your first time here, my name is Lisa and I'm the gal behind this channel. I love these Ohio State Buckeyes so much and I tend to get a little overexcited about their games each week. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you might love the Buckeyes just as much as I do. So from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in. And because I love these Buckeyes so much, that Nebraska game last Saturday was hard to watch. When you love these Buckeyes so much that you bleed scarlet and gray, it is hard watching them struggle in a game that they should have won by a couple touchdowns. Look, we all knew that they likely wouldn't run up the score against Nebraska like Indiana did the weekend before. However, I don't think any predictions had Nebraska hanging around and taking a fourth quarter lead before the Buckeyes got their final scoring drive in and Hancock sealed that deal with the interception. I have been stuck on the closeness of the game, like most of you other fans probably have, and I can't help but walk away thinking there were actually 2 winners from Saturday. One that walked away with the official victory, and one that hung around just long enough to make us sweat, pull our hair out, and have a couple of heart attacks, and then leave everyone questioning the entire Ohio State football program. I was honored to join my boyfriend Corey from Scarlet and Gray and also the OHIO podcast and Eric from the OHIO podcast to host a live watch party for the game on the OHIO podcast channel, and you can see me as just a giant bundle of nerves sweating it out on that recording. The live party was a blast to be a part of, and while the game was not what we wanted, I want to extend a huge thank you to any of you who jumped on there and joined us for the first ever watch party that I was a part of. The chat was fire during the game, and while nerve-wracking, it was still refreshing to be able to talk about everything that was happening in the game with so many other Buckeye fans. While that Nebraska game on Saturday was the exact opposite of what we needed to see before taking on Penn State on the road this Saturday, the fact of the matter is that the Buckeyes did pull out the win, which means all of their goals are still in front of them. All of our confidence in this program might be shattered, but the games that are unplayed are still unplayed, which means winners and losers are still to be determined. And I'm not counting our Buckeyes out of it just yet. Are you? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below because I feel like I might be in the minority here, but I want to hear from you. We are heading into a tough game this Saturday against the undefeated team, and the Buckeyes have basically 0 margin for error. No pressure. Before I dive into my thoughts about this game, I want to hear what are your thoughts. Please go ahead, take a moment and leave a comment below with all of your thoughts for what you think will happen this weekend. I love hearing from each and every one of you. How nervous are you feeling about this game? What do you think this game is going to look like in Happy Valley? I'm personally extremely nervous, and to be honest, my nerves haven't stopped building since the second half of that game against Nebraska. There were a few things that came out of the Nebraska game that were good though, however. So before we move on to Penn State and talking about that, let's talk about those. First, the defense. It did improve and it needed to. It needed to so badly. We needed to see something different coming out of that defense after that game versus Oregon. And we got to see some fun stuff. We got to see blitzes happening. We got to see JT getting warmed up for this weekend, which, by the way, is anyone a lip reader? Because I really want to know what he was saying after he made that huge huge play in the game. Eric from the OHIO podcast called this out during our live watch party, and it looked like maybe he was saying, "I told you," to the Ohio State sideline. So I don't know. All I know is he was pumped up and he looks ready to go, which is a great news because he always has good games against Penn State. So I was pretty excited to see that. Also on the defensive side of things, Cody Simon came in clutch for the Buckeyes in the fourth quarter there. He had some key tackles and stops that without him, it might have been a much different ending to that game. While the offense overall was very shaky, there were a couple highlights that I want to talk about as well. One being Will Howard. He had an incredible pass to JJ where he hit him in stride and JJ was just able to take off into the end zone. That was beautiful. He also had a good touchdown pass to Carnell Tate, which I know, it looked maybe a little bit awkward, but he got it there and then Tate got the touchdown. Plus, we all learned about his personal vendetta that he has against Penn State, since Penn State apparently didn't think that he was good enough and never recruited him. Hearing about this extra motivation and seeing the fire in his eyes when he saw that means things should be interesting coming up this weekend for him. Now, the not so good things that came out of this game, it was watching the offensive line struggle. That was so hard to watch. It's bad. And I'm not going to go into all the details on my podcast because there are literally 50 million other Ohio State podcasts who are all talking about it. And I honestly don't feel like I can add anything new to that conversation. But it was bad and it definitely makes me nervous as we're heading into Penn State. So let's take a look now at the Penn State Nittany Lions, the next team up. This game is a nooner, so at least we won't have to wait all dang day with our nerves raging. But this game already has my stomach churning, and it makes me want to assume my default nervous position already. So far, Penn State has beat West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, and Wisconsin. Their best win so far seems to be against a ranked Illinois, and it looked like they might not win in games against Bowling Green and USC before pulling out both of those wins, which, you know what that tells me? Penn State is not invincible. Penn State is led by James Franklin, who is in his 11th year as their head coach. Franklin is Pennsylvania born and raised, but he didn't grow up thinking that he would ever be the head coach of a Pennsylvania college football team. He has been both loved and hated by Penn State fans over the years, and was actually called one of the most overpaid coaches in college football in 2022 by USA Today Sports due to the fact that Penn State tends to underperform in those big games. So there is a lot of pressure on Franklin to win this game this weekend, as he is 1-9 against Ohio State, and they most likely need to win this game to get a spot in the Big Ten championship game. All this sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? So let's move into taking a look at who we will see on the field on Saturday. Overall, Penn State is currently 13th in total offense. By the way, Ohio State is still ranked 9th, even after last Saturday, believe it or not. Now, you might remember starting quarterback Drew Aller from last year. He committed to Penn State with a lot of build-up hype as the #1 quarterback recruit of his class. And so far, his performance has gotten the job done, but it hasn't been extremely groundbreaking. Aller is not a true dual threat quarterback, but he can use his legs enough to keep defenses honest. However, we're actually not sure if we'll end up seeing him on the field or not, or we might see backup quarterback Buell Pribula. Aller unfortunately went down in their game against Wisconsin this past Saturday, and so he's currently a game time decision according to Franklin for Saturday. Now, Buell does have some legs, which could make things interesting on Saturday if Aller's not quite ready to go. Up to this point, the offense has leaned heavily on passes to tight end Tyler Warren and into running the ball. On the ground, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton give Penn State a 1-2 punch, and they have almost the same amount of rushing yards each. Both have also been utilized in the passing game, which will give our defense even more to think about. Now, Singleton was the talk of the team about 2 years ago as he splashed onto the field as a former 5-star recruit and as a true freshman. Our defense will definitely have their work cut out for them though, stopping this run and defending passes to the tight end. Penn State has been experiencing a bit of a weakness at wide receiver this year. None of them have within 200 yards of their tight end. And there are some familiar names on their receiver lineup, with former Buckeye Julian Fleming transferring this season to Penn State, and Liam Clifford, the little brother of Sean Clifford, who played for Penn State for what felt like 29 years. He's starting to see some action on the field this year. Overall, hearing that wide receiver is a point of weakness for the offense does make me feel a little better about the game, knowing that our secondary can likely lock them up. On the defensive side of the ball, there's a very familiar face in their coaching staff. After Indiana gave Tom Allen the boot for having 3 consecutive losing seasons, James Franklin decided to hire him to become Penn State's defensive coordinator. Allen does seem to be happy and thriving, being able to focus on just coaching players and not having to worry about all the other things on a head coach's plate. He's a highly energetic, fiery, emotional, and relational leader, and he seems to be adding something to the Penn State sideline. Penn State in years past has been known for their solid defensive line play, and they are currently ranked 4th in total defense. Another, by the way, Ohio State is currently ranked 2nd, believe it or not. Defensive end Abdul Carter can wreak havoc if left unchecked, and that thought honestly has tied my stomach all up in knots just knowing the weaknesses that we have in our offensive line. Their secondary has been garnering attention as well, but that's definitely a matchup that we will have to watch, because we know that our wide receiver core can make things happen. As long as Will Howard has a second or 2 or 3 to get that pass off. Okay, yeah, that's making me nervous too, actually. So what are your thoughts about this game that we have coming up? How do you think the Buckeyes match up against Penn State? Are you feeling as nervous as I am? Are you feeling hopeless? Do you still have hope left for this team? Go ahead, let me know. Drop me a comment below, because I really want to know. I want to hear from you. I look at this matchup with all of these nerves scrambling up my thoughts and making my stomach tighten already. And as I said before, I'm feeling extremely nervous. The big question in my mind is, can our offense get it together this weekend? And can they do what they need to do to get the job done? Can the offensive line gel enough during this week of practice to give Howard the time that he needs to let those plays develop and to give the run game the lanes that it needs to push things down the field? I predict this game is going to be close and uncomfortable. I just don't see any way around it. I also predict that the Buckeyes are going to have to fight hard, and that the win will not come easy. I absolutely think that they can come away with it, and I'm going to be cheering them on with everything inside of me. I know my nervousness does nothing to affect the final outcome of the game, and I'll try to keep it under control, but no promises. If you want to watch my nerves on full display, go ahead, head over to the OHIO podcast channel on YouTube the day of the game and join us for that live watch party. I'll be on there for at least the first half of the game before my mommy duty calls, and then I'll be watching the game updates nonstop from my phone like a hawk. Just a little bit of hope that I am clinging to before I wrap things up here that I wanted to pass on to you. I can't remember where I saw this posted, but someone posted that there are 3 things for sure in life: death, taxes, and Penn State losing to Ohio State. As much as our fan base has been upset about day choking and playing too safe in big games, Penn State fans have been doing that for much, much longer with James Franklin. He is notorious for being bad in games that matter. And so let's hope that that trend continues. Second, as Amber Hawley pointed out on Twitter, Texas won by 3 points over Vandy. Ohio State beat Nebraska by 4. Chill out. Thank you for the reminder, Amber, because I think we all need it, because we can feel like these close games are only happening to our team. I mean, my goodness, even Penn State needed overtime to beat USC by 3 points earlier in the season. That's 3-3 USC guys. Also, Will Howard was already locked in on this game as soon as the Nebraska game wrapped up. Maybe, dare I wonder, even before it wrapped up? I just know he's going to be focused on proving proving Penn State wrong. And that might just be the catalyst of attitude that this team needs to rally everyone else to bring their all as well. And then I mentioned this earlier, but JT always has fire games against Penn State. The past 2 to 3 years, those have been the games that he has just come out, he's been ready to play, and he has wrecked havoc in their backfield. So I'm expecting the same thing from him this year. Come what may, I'm going to be doing my best to soak this game up, and the thrill that I get from being a Buckeye fan with all my heart and all my soul. I hope to see you all at the watch party, and if not, I'll catch you on the other side of the game. OH.